This is Lon Winters with Graphic Elephants.
This is Jimmy Lamp.
This is Matt Vassallo with the RhinstoneWorld.com.
And you're listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
And you are listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by...
My name is Terry Combs, RG, regular guy.
And Aaron Montgomery.
We're just regular guys having fun and trying to make a living in this really cool and exciting industry.
I think we all want to succeed 100% of the time.
Seek to understand before I try and make myself understood.
Bring a ton of great information.
Coming to you live from somewhere dark, dirty, and dank.
Well, welcome into the show. It is Friday, May 26, 2023. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. Terry, it seems like we've done this before. Yes, we have. We have reached an amazing milestone. Today is the Two Regular Guys 500th episode. And man, we are just super excited, super grateful to be here after 10 years and still have people showing up, right? And so, and a lot of this would not be possible without our good friend here. So let's just get him in here, Terry. We want to welcome in today, just straight off the top, our good friend and the show producer who's given so much time to this, Mr. Eric Campbell, is going to be joining us right now. Welcome in, Eric. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me. As always, very glad to be here, especially this being kind of a momentous count for the show. I mean, 500 episodes. The way I see it is, it takes a lot of perseverance to stick to it and be present for 500 episodes. Either that or we're massively stubborn, bullheaded, one of those things. Could be perseverance, could be bullheaded, could be that we just keep showing up. But yeah, 500 episodes is huge.
Yeah, no. Funny enough, I've actually used that very point in my book that I just finished the first full draft of. There's a little segment about how just showing up is half the battle, right?
I would say so. Honestly, it's just everybody says, "How do you find time to do that?" And I'm like, "You just do." Yeah. It's just about
you make it important, and and you show up. Yep, I love it. Well, speaking of making it important, guys, I also do want to welcome in all of our regulators. Today is a celebration of you guys in a lot of ways, more so than anything. We've been talking about this kind of behind the scenes and stuff like that, congratulating each other and whatnot, but still unreal to me, you guys. So we want to hear from you guys, the regulators that do tune in each and every week, or and even if you're catching the replay of this or the podcast version, we still want to hear from you guys. So we're going to be talking about favorite episodes, biggest takeaways, and what we see as the future of this show and the industry. And so we want to definitely hear that from you guys that are tuned in. We want you guys to go tell your friends to come on over and be part of this 500th episode. And so should we start off by saying good morning to everybody that's tuned in already here, guys?
Yeah, let's say good morning to a few folks.
All right. So right off the bat, we had a congratulations from Kingsbury Craft. Thank you very much. Bright and early this morning. Well, at least early compared to the showtime. And Chuck, good morning to you. Yep. Thank you, Ramona. Good number 500 to you. Todd, good morning all. Thank you for being here. Mr. Todd from Fat Dad Wholesale over there, and Kingsbury Crafts in saying good morning. And then a very important figure in the Two Regular Guys here, Christine Shreve. Hey guys, congratulations on 500 episodes. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. So, Terry, what's your kind of quick? What do you want to say to the regulators, real quick? We're off script already. Crazy as that may sound.
Well, if it wasn't for Christine, we'd just be saying, "Hey, thanks to all of you people for tuning in." So, because she coined the phrase "regulators," so we have to certainly give her credit for that, and all those women in garment decorating episodes that she did as well. But yeah, hey, that we do this for you guys every Friday 500 times, and certainly appreciate all the support. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but we love to hear from you guys. We love when you come up to us at trade shows and things like that and say, "Hey, we listen to your show every Friday. We listen to it on our production floor." Just wanted to meet you. I had somebody once, I know I told you guys about it, but Somebody,
what?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody came by and said, "I heard you laughing in your booth." And I thought, "Hey, that's that guy from Two Regular Guys."
You do have a very distinctive laugh. I've been told that too. So.
No, I'm going to say
that I do it a lot.
Yeah.
If that's the worst thing we get is I recognize you from laughing, that means we're having a pretty good time on the show, and I'll take it. Like that is not the worst thing it could be. I mean, I'd rather not be, dressing someone down and be like, "Oh, that's that guy from the Two Regular Guys." It's a lot better that they know us for being fun.
That's right. All right. Well, Chuck says 500. What an achievement. Jan says congratulations. Thank you for all the education and entertainment. Nikki said.
That second part, I don't know. Sometimes the entertainment's pretty strong. Sometimes I think that's why they're here.
Yeah. You can't figure it out, right? Do they show up for the education and get the entertainment, or do they show up for the entertainment and then get the education? I don't know.
Do we attempt the education and accidentally provide the entertainment? I think sometimes that's the case.
All a melting pot.
Yeah. Well, like Terry was kind of saying there, the reason that everybody recognizes his laugh is because he does it a lot. He's a pretty fun, happy guy. Kind of why I like hanging around with him.
He's all right.
Yeah, that's right. And then Nikki says, "Hello, gentlemen. Congrats. I've had the pleasure of meeting 2 out of the 3 of you." So, Eric, I think
it's
that's
never a complete set. You got to get the complete collection. Otherwise, what do you got?
And Todd says, "Thank you for the dad jokes." Yeah, that has become a thing. Now, because we do have one coming up here.
We do.
And we'll do that in just one second. But I don't think we can take credit for the dad jokes, though. No. Eric, Terry, you guys agree with me on that one?
Mm-hmm.
That was Pete Lovelace who started that off, correct? And then we just kind of ran with it. Now, we've had lots of help. Terry has a plethora of amazing dad jokes that somehow he dips into whenever we need one last minute.
I got 4 kids and 6 grandkids. I'm filled with dad jokes.
That's a good point. Yeah, my 12-year-old has been very helpful in the dad joke side of things. In fact, the one today is actually one that he brought home with him from school. So, would you guys like to jump into that real quick?
Yeah, let's hear it. Man.
All right. Maybe one of these days we'll have an intro for the dad joke, or is that too much? Is that going too far? No. See, now we get to have the recorded head shake here. This is what I needed for.
Yeah.
I mean, what I have to admit, though, every time I shake my head, you have to just call me out, because it's not like I won't make these up. I've written a good chunk of the dad jokes, not all of them, not most of them, but there's a few of them in there you go back and find. Or when it's been my episode that I had to jump in on, and I come up with the dad joke that's a head scratcher that makes everybody groan twice because it takes a second to get.
And for all the regulators out there, we do also all during the week share jokes, and I will commonly say, "Hey, we can't do this on the air, but this is hilarious."
Believe me, for everybody who said we needed an after dark show, number 1, no, we don't. Number 2, if we did, we'd have plenty of material.
That's right. So, all right. Well, are we ready for this? Is a not after dark version. Again, this came from my 12-year-old, so I think we're pretty safe here. So are you guys ready for this?
Let's hear it.
Okay. What time does a duck wake up?
What time does a duck wake up, Aaron?
At the quack of dawn.
Ooh, yep.
I even do have a visual that I forgot to load until very last second. I don't know if anybody would like to see that really quick.
Why not? Because it's also just like, it's picturesque.
For our podcast listeners, it's a picture of a duck.
How is that a motivational picture of a duck at the dawn, walking across the field?
It looks like one of those inspirational posters, but it has a dad joke on it. So
there's your perseverance right there. Perseverance.
That's right.
Keep waking up like the duck.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Before we dive in any further, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We are always looking for new guests. 500 times. If you are, I feel like I've done this 500 times. If you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2, the number 2, Regular Guys, with all of your show ideas. We would love for you to be a part of our new show intro. We have lots of voices on there from the industry, and we'd like to keep those fresh. So this is open and encouraged for anyone in the industry. So send us your videos, or just select the mic option and read the intro on the screen, and we'll take care of the rest. And add any flair you like. That's what you hear at the end of the intro every week. It's easy to do, and we'd love for you to be a part of the show. If you are listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends. You can say, hey, they've been on the air for 500 episodes. And we would also appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Podcast, or wherever you do your podcast listening. Thanks to Aaron for getting us out there. And if you're watching us live right now or listening live, please join in with your comments and your questions.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of comments and questions, can we go back and hit some more of the comments from before? I apologize for this, Eric, but I'm going to be heavy on that today. So
I'm already scrolling back in the comments. If you guys see me looking off to a corner,
that's right.
Just know I'm still producing.
He's pulling double duty today. We said, "Hey, Eric, let's celebrate together." And, oh, by the way, you get to do double the work today.
Awesome.
But you know what? We did double your pay, so.
Yeah, I mean, double zero is still zero.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is extra zero.
There's an extra zero. There's just not any ones at the front of it. Okay, but Todd. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me get Ramona here first.
Do it.
Says we need a commemorative collectible bobblehead for show 1000. Can you imagine the three of us? Like,
it's easy to imagine because we're doing it all day long on Friday morning.
Can our bobbleheads go like this or like this? The shaking head bobblehead.
Mine would just be down all the time because I'd be groaning from the dad joke.
Yeah, that's right. Jerry,
Eric's would come with a removable hat.
Nobody wants that.
I don't think that hat does ever come off. I've never seen it.
No, I just regenerate a new hat every couple of weeks.
That's right. So good morning to Jerry. Thanks for tuning in. And then Todd, thank you so much. He says, thank you for all the great guests and networking over the years. We've made new friends, found new vendors, and increased our business dramatically thanks to the Two Regular Guys. And yeah, Todd, thank you for your friendship, and thank you for being a big part of Two Regular Guys' success yourself and my success personally and whatnot. So great to. That's we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I think to me that's a big part of what Two Regular Guys is all about. Those things that Todd just shared there. So, all right. Terry Saunders says, congratulations on your 500th episode. Guys and gals, you are the best. You bring a lot of great info to every level in the industry. I think you need to do a bloopers edition so we can see what went wrong behind the scenes to get a good laugh.
Does Jerry know this is
commonly live?
So. Yeah, I was gonna say. The reason we have never done a bloopers reel is because you get to see it all live and in the mix. We've had many a stumble, many a fall, and so the live. We've never been a tradition. So it's always funny because one of the things early on, and I know I'm already getting into what we came here to talk about, but it's 500, so we can do what we want at this point, right?
Has it stopped us before?
Yeah, I was going to say, good point. So, early on, we were the quality of the podcast was not the greatest. Let's be honest, right? It was not. And so I started getting involved with a lot of podcast people to try to learn and see if there was somebody that could help with. I had no idea what the heck we were doing. What microphone do I need? Do I need right? Whatever. And it was so funny because nobody ever really understood our show, right? We didn't fit in the box of a podcast because most podcasts are recorded. Maybe they do a whole bunch of recording sessions. They're edited and right. And we always said that's never what we wanted to be. At first it was because I didn't want to edit, but but when we had that opportunity that we could start getting to that point and doing that, we're like, that's not what people are expecting, right? People are expecting the trips, the stumbles, hey, we can laugh at ourselves. Hey, we can laugh together with the people that we're here on. Hey, we can roll with the punches. And so we'll talk about a lot of that. But I just always thought that was pretty interesting. Still to this day, the quote unquote podcast people that I know have a hard time understanding how Two Regular Guys is still going based on the fact that we don't edit or anything like that.
based on the books that I write, all I heard you say was I talk to a lot of pod people. So,
well, good point.
By the way, Beer Bait and Barbecue, like, good book, guys. Get
the book. There you go. All right.
I really like that one.
Couple more comments here real quick, if you guys don't mind. Christine says, is there two regular guys apparel now? Cassie had a two regular guys shirt on in the Apparelist video newsletter this week, and now Aaron has one on.
So you guys want to jump such a thing?
Do we know somebody who makes t-shirts or hats or anything out there?
So they're we've talked probably for 499 of the episodes we've talked about the fact that we've always needed to have it. I made this shirt myself, and the one that Cassie has, I made that for her as well. But we don't have any actual merch. I think we tried it on Amazon one time when Amazon first started coming out with their merch store, just so we could kind of understand how it worked, but it didn't work great. So
and I'll say this from my point of view, because I've had people ask the same thing on my show as it's starting to get some numbers behind it. Honestly, I always think about, like, I'm getting embroidery to embroiderers. You guys want that? You're not just going to make something. I'm like, how about I just say, okay, if you make something with my logo on it and not be upset about it? Like, because otherwise it's like,
So Eric, you've never been to a trade show because
I know.
Hey, could I have that shirt? I noticed you have a bag of 40 shirts right now, and you're a screen printer. You want another shirt from me? Okay.
Right. I mean, I've seen some folks who do it really well, and especially in the industry where they make other merch that's not the primary thing that we all make, and sometimes that works better. But yeah, no, I get
it. All right. Let's see here. Christine says, so it's limited edition merch. It has a rarity value. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. It is
not
now.
Intentional though. If anybody needs a shirt, I guess we can figure it out, right?
Do I have to build a merch store now? Is that now part of the producer thing?
Producer, merch store operator. Let's see how many other titles. Hey, Eric, will you double your pay every time though? So,
man, I swear, I don't think I can handle this pay.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Todd says, since it was from a 12-year-old, I won't say that joke was foul. Don't worry, we won't migrate to another show. Todd, let's give Todd a quick round of applause, you guys. I'm just going to do it. No, Todd, thank you. Good job.
No, that's how you get more of that. Don't encourage it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm an enabler, guys. You know this.
You want more of that?
And then Kim Johnson says, look at UTC. Clean up nicely in your button-down shirt. Congratulations to you guys. We just got to get Terry to put a two regular guys logo over that horse, right? His
that
polo
can be
guy.
Done. Oh my God! Single color chicken wing and microphone. I got you.
There you go.
We can embroider a tiny chicken wing and microphone in the style of the polo logo.
Like they have those like tattoo repair shows where somebody gets a bad tattoo and then they cover them up. Can you do that with the polo horse guy and put the chicken?
100%. 100% is that possible, doable, and desirable.
All right, Eric. After the show, I'm going to put this in a UPS mailer.
We'll have to talk because that's the kind of funny I can do. For some reason, that's the kind of funny I like. The ridiculous, nobody noticed it, but we know that it's there. Inside joke embroidery. I'm in.
That's right.
That's good for me.
All right. So Todd says I picture it in Three Amigos costumes as the bobblehead. Ramona says keeping it real.
True.
And then
keeping it live and keeping it real out in the open.
Yep. And then Kingsbury Craft says Todd is on it. Yes, we do always look forward to the post dad joke Todd follow up joke. So
he works.
Okay, when we're talking about live bloopers, I kept thinking about. Hey, Aaron, your microphone is still on mute. Or, hey, Terry, your microphone is still on mute as you're talking away.
You should. Yeah.
And I used to overdub you in Spanish whenever you'd forget to turn your mic on.
Because I used to do it a lot. Yeah.
Yes,
I used to do that a lot.
Uh-huh.
I even had a note that says turn your microphone on, and I still couldn't do it. But yeah, that was fun. Now, I will say on the podcast side, those things did kind of get edited. And some of we did have a few episodes where there were a few too many curse words for me to edit them out myself that we had to send off to, because we do still have that PG rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now. So
I think the blooper reel would be just a whole lot of curse words strung together. I don't think you guys really
Not
want
from us.
that. No.
For all those guests.
Most of the time we've done all right. I mean, I think we might have let a couple go over the years, but very rarely.
Very rarely. All right. Charles says, happy Friday and congratulations to you all on your 500th episode. Thank you, Charles. All right. Well, Terry, I want to kind of kick off with you and Eric. Nothing personal. You were not. Well, you were. I guess. Do you remember what episode you tuned into first and foremost? I mean, were you there from the very beginning?
Not the very first episode, but within week 1.
Okay.
I heard you guys I was within not week 1, within like the first month. I was within the first few episodes you had out and live.
Yeah, because we were every 2 weeks for the first. I don't know,
it was a
couple
long
months,
time,
right?
so, yeah,
something like that.
All right. Few episodes, first month, I was definitely there because I remember the Blog Talk Radio days. And, refreshing the chat to try and get the chat to work where we could all talk to each other. Yeah, for real.
All right. Well, so Terry, let's talk about kind of the roots here. You know what the beginning, and also kind of and we can all talk about this too. But the being named to the 10 most influential by apparelist, that kind of stuff. So, Terry, where should we start this off? Where did this all start? From your recollection?
From my recollection, it was, as we've said many times, one time in a bar. Aaron, you and I worked at the U.S. Screen Printing Institute for Scott and Pat Fresner, and we would sit after the trade shows, and anybody out there, and there are a lot of listeners here who work trade shows, not attend, but work trade shows. You're exhausted at the end of the day. So we would go back, drop our stuff at the hotel, go down to the hotel bar, order some beers and order some chicken wings and sit and talk about the day. And other vendors would come in and go, and people that we had met who at our booth would come by and sit down for a minute and talk. And Aaron, you said, I think this was I believe we were in Long Beach when the idea first came about at back then, the ISS show. And you said to me, man, all these conversations we have, this would make a great podcast. And my response, of course, was, what's a podcast?
Well, as I remember it, though, it was basically what you said there. But I said, let's do a podcast. And then you said, sounds great. And then you followed that up with, what's a podcast, right? So that's I tell it that way because that's who Terry is. He is that guy who just.
I'm Mr. Improv. Always say yes. Always say yes.
Yes,
and we'll figure it out later. And that's kind of been our thing, right? So yeah, and I think one of the other things was we'd have these great conversations. I felt like we were solving the world's problems in those moments, but after being at a trade show all day, everybody's exhausted. There's a few beers, there's a few chicken wings. The next day it was a little bit foggy, so we said, well, maybe I was thinking maybe we should record this. But
then later, maybe not.
Yeah. And then we came back to our senses. But I
do, Aaron, remember saying to you, what are we going to talk about for 30 minutes?
Well, even to this day, it's like, do we have enough content? Yes, it's going to go over an hour. There is going to be bonus time, even though there's 3 words on the page.
Now, to all the listeners out there, I commonly, probably every 2 weeks, say to Aaron and Eric, I don't know if we have enough content for this week. And Eric does that, nods. Whatever.
Yes.
Excepting that I do this. Now, by the way, once again, not to bring my show into it, every time I say, this is going to be a shorter one this week, guys. Hour and a half every time. So I think it must be contagious
when you say that, Eric.
They tease me in the comments live every single time. I learned it from watching you, Terry.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember, and jumping ahead, but I remember one time, Aaron, we had a guest no-show on us at the last minute, and you said, hey, what do you know about XYZ subject? I'm like, I could do 40 minutes on that. Okay, let's go.
And then it ended up being an hour and 20. And all right. Well, also, Terry, tell the listeners. I know. We've played this story before. You talked about this very early on, and we probably talked about it before. But where did the name Two Regular Guys come from?
Well, I do remember as well you saying, well, or I said, what are we going to call the podcast? And you said, well, it has to be the two regular guys because
Yes.
I've told the story many times. I was
But
doing
you had
a
just
seminar.
told me this story before we kind of were talking about the podcast. I don't remember how it even came up.
Yeah,
but you told me the story about the name, about this story that you're going to tell, and that to me was like, oh my God, that's it. But go ahead.
And maybe, I don't know, you probably remember from me telling it one time or, 80 times. But everybody out there who knows me knows I sometimes repeat stories, but they get better. But 1991, I'm at the ISS show in Dallas. First time ever speaking. I was super nervous. I'd flown there from Kansas City. And I was doing a seminar with Mark Bennett from Shopworks, and I'd never met Mark. And so I'm there kind of, trying not to let my hands shake too much. And Mark walks up to the microphone because in those days, there were 150 people in all the seminars. They were just packed. And so Mark walked up to the microphone and said, hello, everyone. My name is Mark Bennett, MBA. And I thought, what? MBA? Who says that? So I walked up to the microphone and said, hi, everyone. I'm Terry Combs, RG, regular guy. The room erupted. Mark Bennett didn't speak to me for probably 10 years after that. But I thought, oh, this is cool, talking in front of people. We should do a podcast. But I didn't actually say that in 1991, but that is fact is where the name came from. We used to once a year tell the story for all the new listeners out there.
Yeah.
I didn't mention Mark's name until rest his soul. He passed away. But I have told the story to his son, and he thought it was hilarious.
Okay. Well, yes, you were always very kind about Mark, and Mark was a good guy. Just in that moment, right? But
a sandcastle artist, by the way, as an aside, because that's what I do as an aside.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
The story does get better every time.
Yeah, it does get better.
Also, I've never not laughed when he says RG, regular guy. That delivery every single time, and I want to not laugh because I know I've heard it a million times, but I still love it every time. So Terry, you're correct.
Yeah. Well, the other
good.
It just popped into my head. Well,
it's so good.
Again, anybody who's ever listened to 500 shows, it just popped into my head and I said it.
Yeah, that's the ticket right there. That's the trick. Well, okay. Here's the thing, though. Here's the interesting part, right? That I was just blown away by that story the first time I heard it because Terry says, I'm shaking. I was nervous. I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy, we'll talk to anybody.
He gets that side of it too.
Yeah. So anyhow, but see, everybody starts from somewhere, and you got in there, and fortunately for me, Terry also helped me get into speaking, so. Pretty interesting about the name, but also the logo is pretty special to us. We've had the same logo since really we've had a logo, to be honest with you, because it is really special to us. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, real quick. And because my son, Chris, he works for Dropbox in New York City, but he's a closet graphic designer. And I was telling him about this podcast. And of course he knew all about podcasts, and he goes, you guys need a cool logo. And I had said to him, we talk a lot about beer and chicken wings and garment decorating. And so he came up with the microphone and the chicken wing logo. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And never wavered from that from that logo because it says it all.
Yeah. We've never changed it. Never, we've had different backgrounds around it, different, kind of looks to it from that perspective, but the logo is the exact same. And it will stand the test of time. So
exactly, because Aaron, it's science.
It is science.
It stands apart.
Okay. All right. It stands apart.
Though I have often had to tell the entire story of how the show started because someone says, why is there a chicken wing in the logo? And invariably I'm like, am I now telling stories that Terry tells repeatedly, but now I've told them repeatedly.
Oh yes.
Are we all just becoming?
You spend enough time with Terry, you will tell stories over and over again. I now have a repertoire of stories that I tell over and over again
anymore. I've become one of the pod people, Terry.
Like in the movie Scrooged. That didn't happen to you. That was from Lassie. None of those things happen to you.
I feel it sometimes.
All right. Well, let's catch a couple of comments here real quick, and then let's get into what we really wanted to talk about. I mean, we're 30 minutes in. You know what the heck?
All right.
So Christine, back when we were talking about the curse word, she says, "Oh, curse words. When I was still doing Women Plus Business, that was the hardest thing for me. I tend to curse more than I should." Eric,
I didn't want to say that she's one of the people we had to edit, but
yeah,
she's come clean.
And yeah, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but Eric and Christine were guests. Yep. Yep.
True.
That next one. And then I want to get down to the one where she says Eric gets kudos. Doing a solo show for an hour and a half is really difficult.
There's two sides to that. It can be really difficult. It can also be really, really difficult not to do the show for an hour and a half. Because if you're me, you just try and teach 4 subjects every single time, even though you really don't need to. It's called give value, people.
Yeah. Eric has been known for that. You know, well, when some of the shows, you know, we'll have handouts that people get, and you know, Terry and I have varying levels of handouts that we provide, right? And then Eric has a novella pretty much every time. So is that the right word? Am I even using that correctly?
Absolutely.
No, but for the emphasis, absolutely was the
yes.
Right yes, I do often have multi-page small ebooks that I provide for all of my.
Eric and I were comparing notes one day, and he's like, "Yeah, my handout's like 100 pages or something crazy like that." I'm like, "Oh my god, I thought I really went all out for this one, and I've got 10 pages."
No, I think the way we were talking about, the real number really is around 70 pages. It was like a 68 page handout for a long workshop. Now it was a 3.5 hour workshop, people. I'm not
3.5 hours, and then you get 5 or 6 hours of reading afterwards.
Homework.
Do your homework.
Do your homework. That's right. So Christine, so Christine also said, "How did I miss that story?" I'm shocked by that too. Yeah, we have told that one several times. So
it's an awesome story.
But hey, there you go. That's why we told it today again, right? Jan, I love Jan. Talking chicken wings and beer sounds good to me.
Hey, it sounded good to us all those times.
Yeah. And then Sheila says, "Congrats all around on the 3 of you." Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate it. And Todd says, "Yeah, I'm excited to help Todd. He's got lots to share, especially on the DTF topic, and so I'm going to help him get out there too. He's been doing great, so looking forward to that. Look for that in 2024. I'm putting Todd on the hot seat here. Okay, well, guys, can we go ahead and dive in here then? I think
let's start the main topic. Yeah,
let's start into our outline.
Yeah, let's do it.
35 minutes into the show.
Okay, good. Now, regulators, we want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite shows? Make sure that that's plural, right? This is because if you think about 500 episodes, if we were to say, "What's your favorite show?" That's a little daunting. That's like picking your favorite kid, right? Terry with 4 kids. I don't think you could do that, right? That wouldn't go so well. But what's your favorite show? So because my parents paid extra for the extra A at the front of my name so I could be at the front of the list, I get to go first, right? So
go for it.
And again, I am very glad that we said shows. And as I mentioned, our early quality was not the best in certain senses, especially when I hang out with my podcast friends. We get a little podcast snobby, right? I'm a little bit horrified by some of those early shows, but I'm going to be honest. I'm just grateful for that very first show, right? That Terry had the willingness to say yes before he asked me what a podcast was. I can't thank him enough for that. And that first show, it was, you know, we were on a telephone. We were,
yeah.
It sounded like we were in a tunnel. We didn't exactly know what we were going to talk about. Terry had mentioned, like, what are we going to talk about? Right. And we're like, I don't know. Let's just talk and see what happens. we didn't think about outlines really. I don't think if I remember right. I mean,
No,
maybe we
I don't
probably
think
had
so either.
a couple little things on a scratch pad, but nothing. Yeah. On the junior yellow legal pad for sure. So that was back in February of 2013. So I was hooked at that point, guys. I just, it felt cool. I'm like, I want to do more of this. So, and then I guess from there, the next ones for me that kind of were my favorite shows. And in a way, these are kind of bookends right now, just of the current 500 batch here. But so we did that in February of 2013. It was a little bit of a recap of what we'd seen out in Long Beach at the 2013 Impressions Expo, ISS back then. And for whatever reason, we did a good enough job that a year later, the folks at ISS asked us to do the show live. And I think even, was that the year they brought us chicken wings?
It might have been. It might have been.
First in there early. So anyhow, January 18th.
I remember saying, and there's going to be beer.
They had that happy hour and they wanted us to be there. And so that was January 18th, 2014. We didn't have real mics. We were trying to do a hotspot, but if you've been in that Impressions Expo Long Beach facility, it's down in a concrete basement and the cell service is terrible. So therefore the hotspot was terrible. We ended up just using cell phones and like holding the end of a cell phone in somebody's mouth. I was not videoed back then. And that it was terrible and wonderful all at the same time. The fact that ISS asked us to come back and do it for the next few years was shocking to me. But then I guess to bookend that, I was super proud of what we were able to pull off at Printing United last year. It was, I'm kind of one of those types of people that does get a little fanboy about people that I look up to and respect. And I think Ford Bauer is one of those people that I kind of really look up to. And so to kind of be live with Ford in that fishbowl, being able to do video, audio, have mics, almost like we knew what we were doing. Thank goodness Eric was not there because he could make things work from a stable internet connection. But man, Terry, that was pretty damn awesome, I thought. So,
and for anybody who doesn't know, that Printing United had a glass booth set up with speakers outside, and so we were inside the glass booth, talking, interviewing, and then it was being broadcast out on the show floor. So it was very cool. And yeah, you're right, Aaron. That's
we had we had a big screen TV facing out, so anybody that was standing there on the outside looking in could also see the YouTube feed, because Eric was in there in the feed as well, kind of keeping it going. So anyhow, sorry, Terry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it was very cool though. Very cool. I think you're right. Those are perfect bookends from us on our phones and doing those interviews like at the early ISS shows. I remember the people we were interviewing, a lot of them, as you're talking, they're like backing away and you're kind of walking across the room as they're because
you got to get the mic in their mouth and they're like, ah.
Right.
I still have that.
Unlike ourselves, a lot of people get a little nervous talking on a podcast. Hey, there's just a few thousand people listening. It's cool.
No big deal. No big deal. So in fact, I still have that crappy old Radio Shack mic that we used early on. It's still sitting in this drawer right back here.
Awesome.
So I'll have to grab
in the
that.
archive.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so and again, thank you guys for letting me go first. Appreciate my parents doing that for me. But couple more here. Jared and I. Gerard, excuse me. You guys know I'm terrible at names, so that's Matriler, if I remember correctly. He actually was working, and it's kind of a bigwig at Corel nowadays, from my understanding, and he was then. But back in May of 2014, he actually came on our show to talk about how Corel was committed to the apparel industry. In fact, we were able to give away a couple of, I think that was Corel 7 back then. If I remember correctly. No, was it further than that?
Later, had to been later.
It had to be.
I think I think he introduced the new version on the show.
Yeah, it was a new version, but I maybe okay.
It's
For
cool.
some reason, 7 stuck out to me, but now I have to go look it up.
I don't
Thanks
know.
a lot, Eric. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm incredibly impressed that you have all these dates, by the way. All of mine are like, I think it was 3 years ago.
Fortunately, we do have a website that has every single one of these episodes, and you can actually search this stuff on the website. So I did cheat a little bit, but all right. And then another show that stood out that was a favorite, because this is a favorite because of Terry, his 52 niche markets in 52 minutes, which is a big joke that Terry could never get through 52 in 52 minutes. So we did the 200th episode with 200 niche markets as a kind of a nod to that. I don't know how many we got to, but it certainly wasn't 200. But that was also our 200th episode, which was April 7th of 2017.
Wow.
And one last favorite one. I'm stealing all of your guys' thunder, so don't you worry.
You're stealing all the ones we are going to talk about later.
It was really cool the first time, and this, as Christine had mentioned earlier, this was back in the Blog Talk radio days. Eric and Christine actually took over the show. Terry and I got on, introduced it, put our phones on mute, and then sat back and leaned back and listened. In fact, I think I was sitting at a Starbucks up the street from my house at that point. For whatever reason, that kind of stood out to me. So anyhow, that was pretty cool because not only was it like a day off, right? At that point, we'd been doing it for a little bit. And so we were kind of like, oh, okay, this is actually going to take some effort. But it also brought new perspectives. And I think that's really what I've really loved about, we've always wanted to do guests as much as possible, things like that, because we want everybody's perspective. At least I do. And I know you guys are probably in that same boat. So, all right. I'm sorry. I stole every one of the good ones potentially, but there are 500 to pick from. So Terry, you get to go next.
Well, yeah, and I think we all thought this, wow, out of 500, which ones do you pick? So one that's always stood out to me, and it's actually a series of shows, when we had Gordon Firemark on to talk trademark, copyright. I thought that was incredibly useful information. And I feel like I have a pretty good handle on trademark and that sort of thing. And I always learned something on that show that I hadn't thought about before. And I think that's one thing that most people don't have a grasp of in the industry is trademark. Go to Etsy and you'll see immediately people don't understand what trademarks are
or care.
But, I always like those shows. On a broader sense, Aaron, you already mentioned it, as you said. I loved all the niche market shows, but I think it's probably also because the three of us are huge niche markets nerds. But
niche nerds.
Okay. And it's probably supposed to be niche markets, but we print T-shirts. So
niche. Yeah, we'd be niche nerds if that's the way we said it. So anyway, sorry.
But also any of the shows that talked about Excel spreadsheets, because again, Excel spreadsheet nerds, and of course, any mention of the junior legal yellow legal pads. For all the podcast listeners, Terry is holding up a whole stack of junior yellow legal pads.
He keeps Amazon in business just with those alone.
See, I always thought that should be our first merch item. Honestly, it should just be two other guys' legal pads.
No pads.
Like a little caricature of Terry up at the top. Smiling at you.
At Printing United, the first year, one of the organizers of Printing United actually came over, of the couple hundred people there, and came over to me at my table and handed me a legal pad and said, "You'll probably need this." So I guess people listen to the show.
Yes.
The other one I wanted to bring up is a favorite yearly show, and I think it's a favorite of all our listeners too, is our Reggie Awards show. Absolutely. And again, and what you guys don't know is Aaron and Eric and myself, we get together at least once a year, usually more than that, but once a year we sit down and talk about what worked, what didn't work, and early on said, wouldn't it be cool if there was an industry award that that was suggested by and selected by everybody in the industry. And we thought, hey, will anybody do this or not do this? And from the first show, we knew that we had found a hit, that the people in the industry, the decorators, the vendors, everybody thought, oh, this is so cool. We get to choose. It's not picked by that, the old boys network over here, and so from the very first year, it was huge. And for anybody who doesn't know, by the way, Reggie is RG, regular guys, Reggie. So if anybody ever wondered what the Reggie Award really meant, that's where it came from.
Yeah, there's no screen printer of legend named Reggie that we're honoring or anything.
No.
It's
not even a guy I used to know. I don't think I've ever met a Reggie.
Yeah. All right, Eric, before you get in, and I know that we're making you, but there are 500 to choose from, so you should be able to find something in there. But let's. Christine says, I have to say, I was always proud of the women in garment decoration shows done under the Two Regular Guys umbrella, and the fact those still continue, that makes me happy. Absolutely.
Now Christine's stealing my shows because that's in my notes for my favorite shows.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
She's stealing your stuff.
Yeah.
Well, she is the originator of so much that she deserves it. She gets to say it first.
Yeah.
Chuck says that Mike should be worth something. They aren't around anymore.
There you go.
Jan says the 200th show was a good one. Totally stood out to me. Thank you, Jan. And Christine says, I remember those shows with Eric really fondly. And I have to say, those shows were part of me figuring out that maybe I could do this myself. Absolutely.
Which she did splendidly.
Women and Business podcast. Fantastic show that she put on. And to Christine says, I would buy a Two Regular Guys Junior Yellow legal pad. And then one more comment, and then we'll let you jump in there finally, Eric. But Sheila says, perhaps there needs to be some mythology created about the OG original regular guy named Reggie.
Two Regular Guys world building. I'm here for it. I'm a big nerd. If you guys want to make up the Two Regular Guys mythos, I'm all about it.
You're in. All right.
Go for it.
All right, Eric. Well, finally, it's your turn. You've got, another 450 or so shows left to pick from.
I will say it was hard to choose because I did what you did. I went back to the listing and just read through all the shows, and I was like, man, we had so many good people on. So what I want to say first is, to all of our wonderful guests, we loved all your shows, and you being there was important to us. So if I don't name your show, it doesn't mean like you're not my favorite industry person who's out there. It just means we have so many different shows. And I had to say, like, part of the problem I have is kind of what Terry has. The one that we did last that was cool was the first thing that comes to mind because we were just in that spirit doing it.
Yeah.
But then when I read through, I'm like, I was like being there again. It was like going through the entire process again. But I'm going to say here, I'm going to go a little off script and say some of the things I really love were the host shows. And it's not that the guest shows aren't awesome, but sometimes when we get to do what we're doing here today and just kind of cut up, it's just Aaron and Terry and me cutting up on the show. I love that stuff. Also, the host shows were just Aaron and Terry talking about topics. Even as a producer, I just love to see that dynamic for the whole show sometimes. So there are times where I just love the RG shows. The shows are just the guys. And that's something that I also really enjoyed. So though I love all the guest shows, and I'm going to mention guest shows too, obviously the host shows are some of my favorites because it's just sometimes it's just the greatest when it's off the cuff, even when there's a disaster and we just have to be off the cuff. But one of the favorite sets of shows I have is one of the most non-traditional ones, and it's like in the YouTube archives. You can go check these out. When we did the live Ask an Expert panels at Dax Tinley Park.
Yeah.
The live show panels where we were up on the stage, we recorded those and broadcast those, and they're on our YouTube archive. And it was like we would have 4 experts up there talking about a topic, hashing it out. And there was an incredible amount of like honesty going on up there. People who were supposed to be competitors talking things out and admitting stuff on stage that you think behind the scenes you would never hear. People talking about each other's products, people talking about possibilities that would cross the boundaries of just being able to sell from their one category. And I will say, because I was on the embroidery panel, it's not just because I was on there that it's one of my favorite sets of shows, because I'm actually thinking about the print show. The screen print one is the one I remember, just people from different kind of segments of screen print just being real honest and talking things out. And I don't think that I had seen that on any of the shows in that way. And it was awesome. People just came up there and were very unguarded, and it was wonderful. So I love those shows. And honestly, that very much reminds me of Christine's shows and the shows we have done, continue to do with the Women in Garment Decorating, where we have different perspectives all in one room. We have lots of guests together. I think some of those are fantastic, and I really do love those. But yeah, the live panel shows, I loved that stage show. That was the best. I thought we did some incredible stuff there because we just really amplified those voices and let people be themselves and talk and integrate. And it was like the original idea of, hey, people at the trade show in the bar talking shop. It was just fantastic. So that was great. And then one of my favorite guests, just had to give him an extra bit of kudos because he's just one of my favorites and always has been, and whose recent episode was absolutely straight fire, was Jay Bissell. Jay Bissell has done multiple 100% like inspirational, straight fire, and useful shows. The thing that kills me with Jay is he will come on, be affable and cool because we know Jay's just fun and cool, but then have a point, have a topic, and at the end, there's almost always an actionable thing you can use it for.
Yeah.
So 100% Jay comes in and just delivers every time. So I have to just give him some extra shout outs because like I said, it was hard not to go, oh, that show we just did with Jay, because it was such a good show. It was really enjoyable. And then another person I had to shout out to, was fun for me, Jeremy Picker. You guys, Picker from Amber Creative. Jeremy Picker has put out a lot of stuff since, but we kind of had him on the show a little early on into him coming into the sphere of doing all this stuff. He now has his own show. Joe Kramer, who works with him, has his own show, and they are out there being just absolute influencers and doing the thing. And it's cool to see someone go from kind of like a little nervous, just starting out, but having that really great content because he knows his stuff and believes in it and is passionate, to out there doing the show. Very much like Christine, who went from kind of being out there to doing their own show and being part of that education that we think is so important. Yeah. Like I said, we can't. So I don't want to ever forget, though, Christine's contribution to the show for all of her wonderful content, and setting us up to have a quarterly discussion with the hardworking women of the industry. Yeah. Especially because if you have a show called Two Regular Guys, real quickly, you're like, I'm pretty sure we should make sure that women are getting a chance to speak about their time in the industry too. And that's always been fantastic. So those are kind of my favorite shows. I have to say, hard to choose. There are so many where I go back at the Gordon Firemark one, especially. That was another one I really enjoyed. And like, there have been so many. And the other thing is, we've had so many shows that are not just about decorating. There were business shows, there were motivation shows and mindset shows. There were shows for each segment of decoration. There were shows about trade shows.
Nuts and bolts of how to do things.
All across the board. So
we have done everything from the dirt to the sky. And I've really enjoyed that we've actually gone off the book, sometimes gone off the script.
Yeah. And I love that you also talked about that kind of tree, right? Not to for us to try to take credit for it, but I will always give credit to Terry that I'm able to do the things that I get to do today, to be out there speaking, because of Terry. I mean, you're thank you, sir. Right. So I kind of feel like it's like, you look in the NFL, the coaching tree, whatever. Right. So we're all speakers because of Terry. Right. So we're under the Terry tree. I love it.
Well, I do remember, Aaron, the first time you and I did a seminar together, and I'm a little too brief. You're a little too wordy, because my slide would have 3 words on it. Then Aaron's slide would come up next, 3 paragraphs. My slide would come up next, 1 word.
We found a balance after a little while.
I think we both balanced each other a little bit on that. Yes, I have more than 3-word slides now.
I love it. All right. Well, let's keep moving here. Let's see here, but make sure we didn't miss anything. Christine says, I will always give kudos to Terry and Air for agreeing to share their platform and do the Women in Garment Decorating podcast. They didn't have to do that. It means a lot that they did. Well, thank you, Christine. That means a lot that you shared that. And it means a lot to be able to have that platform for us. And I remember having a very long conversation with Ann Crum, who's part of the program over there at Printing United. We've had her on this podcast as part of one of the Women in Garment Decorating. And at that last Printing United out there in Vegas, her and I had a very long conversation about kind of making sure that the tone of what we were trying to do with that was very important to me. And I know it's important to Eric and Terry. And so that was really cool to kind of get that feedback that, yes, it was something that was valuable. And so that's why we want to keep doing that. All right. Well, 54 minutes in. Let's get on to point 2 out of 3. Can we do this? It's going to be a long one today, guys. Let's just go with that, right? All right. Most memorable moment, Terry. You get to go first this time.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. I think the in-person, face-to-face interviews, I remember most. The 3 ThreadX events where we did live shows there. I remember, and now our good friend Mel Lay telling her story about working in her garage and being on social media and going viral. And of course, Mel's become a really close friend to all of us since then. But it was so cool to hear the story because I'd never heard it before, and we got to hear it live. And at that same show, we were interviewing Tom Round, and I will never forget this because we had our basic questions we ask, and one we always ask and that I love is, how did you get started? And Tom looked at me kind of perplexed, and he said, well, I came to your class 8 years ago. So feel good moments like that. But and speaking of ThreadX, we can't forget the road trip. Yeah. The great road trip to Palm Springs. It was
Eric's been trying to put that out of his mind for years, Terry. You're going to bring this back up again? It's like PTSD.
It was good. I almost mentioned this one.
Aaron and myself in the front seat, Eric and Marshall Atkinson in the back. And by the way, anybody who doesn't know, Eric and Marshall Atkinson are the 2 tallest men in the industry. They're in the back seat of my Honda. From Phoenix to Palm Springs, but we recorded hours of content on that trip, and we talked
Christine
industry.
Just brought it up, actually,
what's that? Oh, decorators and cars with cookies, exactly. Because Marshall Atkinson's wife made these fantastic chocolate chip cookies, and he brought a giant gallon Ziploc bag of them, and we ate cookies all the way to Palm Springs. And I also remember, and you guys probably remember this as well, during one of the big full sessions at ThreadX, Mark Coudray stands up and says, if there had been a car accident in the desert on the way to Palm Springs, half the articles and industry content would have been lost forever. I thought it was kind of a joke, but it was also a huge compliment on his part. So
from the stage was killed me because he called us out by name from the stage, and I about lost my mind. I was like, Mark Coudray did not just say my name at the stage. Just, like reference that stuff. I was like,
but again, I love the how did you get here parts of the industry, and a lot of transitions because we used to have, say, send us a bio, and we'd sit there and read the bio, and I think, Aaron, you're the one who said, you know what, let's just ask them, and you hear a great story. Tell us about you. Tell us about how you got here, and we find out that somebody that you admire in the industry, we find out they started out in a garage, or they started out in a band, or they started out in high school art class. And I think that's motivational, inspirational. I know we're a little short on time, but
we're fine. Yeah.
During COVID, those after-hour cocktail parties we did once a month, and I will always remember this. Once we were allowed to venture outside again, and there hadn't been a trade show in a couple of years, and I ran into Lon Winters and from Graphic Elephants, and Lon came over and gave me a big hug, and he goes, Terry, I have to tell you, those COVID days were tough on me, tough on my business, and he said, those cocktail parties that you guys had once a month on Zoom, he goes, that really meant a lot to me. It just helped me through it and helped me to know that everybody else was going through the same thing I was going through. I think we did it because, for one, we all kind of missed each other, and it was just an opportunity to kind of commiserate. And these guys were all talking about how to get government money and this and that. I mean, they were useful. It was useful as well, but it just kind of touched me that he said, man, it really meant a lot to me just getting together with everybody and having a cocktail. So, and the last thing is when I was trying to put this together, Kim Johnson suggested, maybe you should do that. Remember that show where Terry told a story that no one had actually ever heard before? And
When was that one?
Yes, it doesn't exist. So, but as I said before, my stories are like fine wine; they grow richer with age. But one last thing I have to tell you guys: every time I do seminars, I always say, "Hey, was anybody in my earlier seminar?" It's not because I'm curious if you came to another of my seminars. It's, can I use that same material again? Armed with my degree in journalism from Ohio University, I accidentally became a screen printer.
It's still good. It's still good.
All right, I'll stop talking. Aaron, how about you?
No, that's awesome. And you totally rubbed off on me because, I did a string of seminars not too long ago. And by the last day, I'm like, I know you guys have heard this before, but
could be worse. I did a direct lift. I said armed with my degree in English and medieval studies the other day. And I referenced her. I said, just like Terry Combs, I come here armed with my degree.
I love it.
So, yeah.
All right. And then real quick, Mr. Douglas Quinn, Q, I call him, a good friend of mine. Terry, we've had an opportunity to meet him in person. Not an industry guy, just a great friend of ours. And he mentioned that there's a little loss of hair. I don't know what's happening here. My hair is running away.
It was never there for me.
Yeah.
Never there. You never saw it.
Well, so we're talking about most memorable months, right?
Yeah, sure.
Gosh, yeah, there's a lot of them. I really felt good about the in 2017 we did a series on calculating your true costs, and we hit all at the time all of the major categories from sublimation to screen printing, embroidery. Eric, you helped us with that. Andrea Bomarita helped us with that. So I thought those were really well. And so those were pretty memorable moments because I definitely heard a lot of feedback from folks that helped them kind of understand their costs a little bit. And Terry already brought up the ThreadX events. And, I looking back at some of the pictures, actually, that this was a nostalgic ride kind of coming together with some of this stuff. Terry and I in suits with two regular guys' ties on. I've got, in fact, let's see if I can get out of the way. Nope, it's not sitting over there anymore. It's over there somewhere. In casino night, I remember getting in trouble because I cranked up the volume to start it off and yelled, "All right, everybody." the folks from Printing United were none too thrilled about that kind of jolt. But hey, you know what? It was casino night. We had to have some fun. And I guess looking back to that, what really kind of stood out to me, that was 5 years. That was over 5 years ago, actually. That was 2018, February of 2018 that happened. It seems like just yesterday, totally, to me. So, and I guess this is not really a specific moment to point out, but we did kind of reference this a little bit earlier, but over time, especially early on, in fact, the ones that really stood out to me were some of the people early on that A, didn't understand what a podcast was. B, didn't really think that it was like worthwhile to their time. They agreed to come on and then just like kind of no-showed or last minute backed out or whatever. And, to me, that just lit a little bit of a fire under my butt to be like, okay, that's cool. I got you. Let's, kind of here, hold my beer. We're going to make something out of this. And, so that, in fact, in a lot of ways that encouraged us to reach out to Eric and see if he could help because we knew he was good at making things happen too. So I think
we went over a hump when people started calling us saying, "Hey, is there any chance I could be on your show?"
Yeah. And also at the same time, people, I mentioned I was hanging out with a bunch of podcast people. They were like, "How are you monetizing that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, oh, well, I guess we could have
this is a labor of love.
Yeah. Monetize. You mean, how am I paying for this because Block Talk Radio wasn't cheap.
One does not monetize art. Why? How would you do such a thing?
All right. And then the last memorable moment for me, and this is just a personal thing for me, but any shows that land on Friday the 13th, I think I always feel like I'm kind of in my prime those days because I was born on a Friday the 13th. So those are always memorable. I don't know why. I have a little extra electricity that day. So, all right, Eric.
The main character in my novel, Beer Bait and Barbecue, was also born on Friday the 13th, just as an aside. Go ahead, Eric.
Available on Amazon right now. I promise you.
Yeah. Damn it.
I read it on my Kindle on the plane.
Terry, I'm bringing my book to Nashville, by the way.
All right.
Signed copy. So anyway, go ahead, Eric. You're finally up, buddy. I'm sorry.
That's all good. This one's pretty funny for me because honestly, though it's hard to beat Thread X, I have to say there's so many memories around that Thread X. So that's a lot of that whole episode was, or that not real episode, but the episode of Thread X. The us being there was such a big deal. But for me as a producer, the funny thing is the most memorable moments are where things went wrong. Like when something explodes, that's what's memorable to me. And we've had quite a few of those, but some of them are also just weird things that happen on the show. I always remember Teresa Hagel, who was coming to us directly from ASI offices during a fire alarm and had to leave and walk out with her laptop, was trying to continue the show while there's a fire alarm. She was a trooper and got through it. Definitely the handful of times I've taken over either for a guest, one of you two guys, or on rare occasions where literally nothing goes right and I'm the only one who has a lot of connection. And just suddenly I'm doing the show. Those are pretty cool. And we do have a couple of other ones where I hate to say it, I remember the things that go bad because those are the times where we have to get out and shine and try and do what we do. And so there's a few of those. We've had some rough guest times, we've had some technical difficulties, but the thing is we have kept the show going through all of it. And I think that's pretty awesome. And honestly, we've had some pretty remarkable shows from some of those. And not once again, just because I took over and I love my content. No, we've had some really remarkable shows. Like I said, those host shows where things go wrong and we just have to jump in and do it. Some of those shows are some of the best work we've done because I think we all work pretty well off the cuff. But other than that, for most memorable moments, how can we beat the original Confetti Cannon? Come on.
That's true.
Every single time I see that clip, I smile. Every single time.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I have a big grin on my face every time I see it.
Every time we play the outro, I don't know if we will ever be able to change the outro because I think I'll fight. I think I'm willing to fight for that one. I love that outro and it kills me. So the original Confetti Cannon's got to be one of the best.
And Eric, I can't believe that one of your biggest takeaways isn't when I just randomly in the show said, and his rapper name is E-Rich.
It had to see.
I knew it couldn't get through this show without it.
So, but tell about. Well, I think it was a job interview, right? That or when you started a new job.
No, I walked into a shop to help consult at a shop to help somebody, and when I walked into the shop, someone immediately went E-Rich, and I was like, oh my gosh, just kill me now if I never hear it again. I have two things. Like I will let you say it once in jest, and it's great. There are two names that I don't love. That is one of them. I don't actually want you to call me E-Rich. If it's real, I mean, once is cool. The rest of the night, the face I make will get worse all the night through. And the other one was Big E. I don't love Big E. I am big, and that is the first letter of my name. And I am much bigger in person than you expect me to be. But no Big E, no E-Rich.
Well,
Eric's fine.
As I mentioned earlier in the show, it just popped into my head while I was talking.
I wish you were the only one, but certainly you have popularized it more than any. So.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Christine said, I read the book. Terry, well done. Great story.
Thank you.
Christine says, I always remember the first time Aaron wanted me to do a show on video. I was terrified and then it didn't work out. And I was so relieved. But then you came on and did video not too long after that and we're killing it. And then you started your own video show. So, I'm glad that worked out and you didn't stay terrified for too long. You're a rock star. So, and Eric, the greatest part about that original confetti cannon was that was at a co-working location that I was at, and so I don't have to clean up that confetti still. The one I did here, I do still find some from time to time.
I am sure someone is still getting the long-term gift of your confetti cannon every once in a while.
Yeah. Now, I am going to be reaching out to the folks at Graphics Pro this week to see what the chances of me setting a confetti cannon off at Start Hair Academy are. So we'll see.
Please let it be on video.
I'm very doubtful, but we'll see. I may have to use the clip instead. So we'll see. All right.
Cue Aaron with a shop vac.
Yeah. Well, Eric, since you've been kind enough to go last for us this entire time, you get to go first on the biggest takeaway.
All right. I will do that. Right there. I think the takeaway for me is pretty easy because this speaks to kind of a real original kind of formative feeling I've had in my own work in the industry. As people know, I came up having to teach myself, and everybody's heard this story a million times, so it's not just Terry, folks. But I was an embroidery operator, kid who was throwing around boxes in the back of a truck at first, and had to learn digitizing everything on my own. And it was only much later that I got to talk to people. And in fact, this show is where I kind of got my introduction to the rest of the industry. You guys don't know, I spent my day at a desk job chained to the desk. I didn't go teaching until like 7 years ago that I went out on the road to teach. It wasn't that I had a long career before teaching. And this show is part of how that all happened for me. So thank you guys. But here's my biggest takeaway out of all the episodes I've been on, not all 500, but quite a few. We are at our best when we share of ourselves, when we're looking to lift people up and give strength to the voices of those who are trying to make the world, even if it's just our little world of apparel decoration, a better place. And we three are lucky to be here facilitating that goal and making space for people to speak up, speak out, and leave a legacy for decorators that are coming up after us.
Yeah,
that's what we're here to do. We've always been open to teaching. There is no magic thing that should be behind a curtain. There is no reason why everything should be secret. This should be real, out in the open, available to everybody. And I think we've done a good job of that. And I think we've elevated the voices of people who are willing to share and teach and give themselves. And I think that's the best thing we could be doing.
Yeah. Really good point. Really good point.
Yeah.
Terry, what about you?
Well, I'm kind of along the same lines as Eric. I think that an early goal for us was to share good information against all the clutter and misinformation out there in the internet and I think that every week, we've accomplished that, and not just us, a broad range of real expert voices out there. And I love the fact that the Two Regular Guys now has become recognized as a resource in the industry for that, that good information. So that's probably my biggest takeaway. How about you, Aaron?
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, you guys hit that on the head. In fact, Christine says, very eloquent. Eric, I agree with that. And Terry totally agreed. I always love how, you always talk about, there's lots of information out on the internet, but there's not always good information. Right. And unfortunately that's it, right? It's how do you shuffle through all that? But I think for me too, though, these last 10 years have just kind of solidified for me how wonderful this industry is that we're a part of, right? It really is Hotel California, but in a good way, I mean, because we don't want to leave. I think about some of the regulators that I've been able to actually meet in person, and even ones that aren't necessarily actively engaged in the comments all the time. Terry, you talked about the people that, we listen to this at the shop and we, that kind of thing. And, but, they've taken their time to come up and say hello and send us an email. I actually still vividly remember getting off of a plane in Las Vegas, going to SGIA at the time. And a couple came up to me at the baggage claim and said, yeah, we just listened to, 3 episodes on the plane ride out of here. And we were in the back of your plane. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Right. But just the fact that they were, so cool to just come up and say hello, and again, so many amazing people that I've met. But there is somebody that I did want to single out, Christian Snyder of Thread Designs in Minnesota. She's been a regulator for a while. And if you guys aren't aware, I'm fairly involved in the Skills USA program, which I think is a really great program to be a part of because it's bringing young people to our industry. And I, someday they're going to be my boss, in a way, right? We need those people joining us. We need the young people to be excited about what we're doing, so this doesn't become a dying or lost art. And so she's a regular decorator, small business, solopreneur, and has a nice little business up there in Minnesota. And she's gone out of her way personally to show up and be a judge. That's all on her own dime. Awesome. This year she's gone out of her way to help me find material for the competition to use. She's not a big distributor. Now, lots of great support, right? We do have lots of great distributors supporting us. Condi, for sure. I run the sublimation competition. So got Condi, sewingmachine.com is really stepping up this year. Stalls, Epson, Sawgrass, right? So not to say there isn't help, but somebody that's just a everyday decorator that's willing to give of herself so much. I just had to because I can directly tie her back to Two Regular Guys and that friendship that I built with her. So I think that's really cool. And then to get a little nuts and bolts here, the last thing I wanted to share, and like Eric talked about earlier, it is hard to not just kind of look back at some of the recent stuff and go, but you know what? The recent stuff is also part of those 500 shows that we've done. And over the last 2 shows, and even though Johnny Shell wasn't specifically there to talk about sustainability, he brought up the circular economy. Is that what it was? Mm-hmm. Right? Because see, I'm still learning this stuff. But then the conversation we had with Teresa about sustainability, and I always work in the small business side. And I think small businesses don't always give sustainability enough of a thought, right? And because Eric, you and I talked a lot about this on the half last week, right? Mm-hmm. The price tag shows up and it becomes real at that point. Yeah. But I think we've got some work to do there, and that really shined a light on me. So that was a kind of a memorable moment for me there. So, Sure. Yeah. Can we hit a couple more comments here real quick, and then we'll close this out with what do we think the future holds, and we'll be right on time ish. Let's see here. So. Biscuit 2003 said, I kind of met Eric at the Dax show in Chicago. Super nice dude. Sat down to get some lunch at the show, and he was at the table. Great people sharing great information. Thank you so much. That's cool. Yeah. And Jan says, Eric, love that. Yes, yes, and yes. Time for us to support and train the next generation. Sorry, dude. Absolutely. Down there a little ways. The next generation passion projects are so exciting. Also, Biscuit said the show with Marshall and Allen and the Daily DTG are the triple threat to get the real deets of the industry. Cuts all the BS out. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Good to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, what does the future hold? Right. And Terry, I think we're going to put you back in the hot seat to go first here.
All right, at 18 after the hour, I will be brief.
It's only 15.
I will say that
we started a couple of minutes late.
Yeah. We've got bonus. I'm going to say for the future for the show, as long as I keep looking forward to Friday mornings, onward and upward, gentlemen. I hope you feel the same way. And I think we'll probably continue looking for new ways to reach the community. This show is 1,000 times different than it was the first year, and I think it changes up every year, and I believe for the better. Our latest news segment, which is the news segment, where we feature journalists from the industry to I think that's been a really big hit with the regulators. It's been a big hit with us because they bring up a lot of things that I'm like, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. I'm here making notes on that junior yellow legal pad, and everything they bring is fresh and new, and so I love that. And I think we'll probably continue looking for ways that we can get more industry participation. And as for the industry, after being in this industry for decades, I think that we'll continue to say, calm down. Don't be so quick to say that this technology or that technology is going to replace this technology or that technology. It's the end of screen printing. It's the end of DTG printing. It's the end of this. It's the end of that. Well, guess what? All those things are still here. So everybody calm down a little bit. You don't have to, say, I spent 30 years being a screen printer. Now it's all out the window. But in the end, garment and product decorating, the future is just as bright as it was the first when I printed the very first shirt that I ever printed in, I'll say it, 1979. And decorated apparel consumption is ever moving upwards. So and in good economy and bad economy. So I think the future is bright for the industry, and I think that I hope that we are on the forefront of introducing everybody to new technologies and new techniques and new opportunities out there in the industry.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. Perfect, Terry. Regulators, we want to hear from you guys. What is it that you want to see in the future? What'll keep you coming back for the next 500 shows, right? And beyond. And so, I definitely first and foremost want to celebrate this is an opportunity. This show has been an opportunity for us to kind of reminisce, look back, celebrate, have some fun, But to me, in a lot of ways, it's really to celebrate the regulators, right? It's a cool milestone. Agreed. Round of applause for sure. But I kind of look at it when you reminisce. Sometimes people go, "Is this it?" But in my mind, like Terry said, we keep looking forward to this. This is every Friday I get to hang out with two of my best friends, Terry and Eric, right? And I can't do that because we don't live in the same cities, so it's pretty cool. And so I'd say just start 1,000 plus, right? And so and here's the other thing, guys. I don't know. Who knows? We could pass this off to the next group, right? Wouldn't it be kind of cool if the two regular guys was two ladies sitting down and having a conversation with guests, right? I mean, come on, how cool would that be? So as long as the regulators keep showing up, I'm going to show up, and heck, even if they don't, maybe I'll still probably show up to anyhow. I am that going back to what you said earlier, Eric, I am that pigheaded and stubborn. So, and then, for the industry, here's my take, and Terry, you hit all of that stuff on the head. None of it's going away. Lots of improvements, and here's the cool part in my mind: the things we do, sublimator, screen printer, embroiderer. It is tangible. It's tactile. We can touch it, and no matter how good AI gets, humans will have a need to have a tactile thing, because that binds us together as a tribe, right? It sets us apart. It brings us individuality. And far as I can tell, right, and no AI is going to be able to take away what we can do physically with the making products, right? Yes, it might take over some of it, and hopefully it'll make lives easier for a lot of us in a lot of different ways. But as far as I can tell, AI is not going to take us over. So it may take over the podcast, who knows, but that'll be okay. We'll just upload all of Terry and Eric and Aaron's brains, and
I'm good for it.
Yeah. But here's the deal. I mentioned Skills USA already, being a part of that and seeing these young people get excited about the things that, still excite us. Terry, after a few years, 1979, he said, I started in 2000. So, I feel like I'm relatively new and I get to hang out with Terry, but at the same time, I've been around this for a long time. And I think we're still excited about it as much as we were the first day, for sure. Yeah. Terry said that already. Eric, I know you feel the same way. Mm-hmm. So I think we've got an industry of really great people and an industry of competition, right? Yeah. You already alluded to this earlier, Terry, but some of the people that we got to talk to sitting around, right? Like Hawkeye, for example, is a great example of somebody that's important to the two regular guys world. And you sell Epson DTG machines. He sells Brother DTG machines. You guys hang out and are friends. I mean, that tells you what kind of an industry we're in. So I don't know, that's my kind of future and just excitement about where things are going. So
I agree with you, Aaron, but AI is listening, so all hail Skynet.
Okay, thank you.
What I love is Terry's been joking about Amazon being Skynet forever, and then real Skynet came up underneath it in the form of AI. And just kind of like, no, I'm here, actually. That's fine. Yeah. Thank you. I can help. And by the way, I love the concept about tactile things. I have embroidery around me at all times, to the point where I was like reaching around, I'm going to patch right here. And also, what I always say about it, us being connected to things, it allows us to almost literally wear our heart on our sleeve. And I was going to make the biggest pun ever. There we go. Literally wear your heart on your sleeve.
Eric has a big
I put a heart patch and I put it on my sleeve.
Yeah.
But it really is. It's about how we identify ourselves and how we show this belonging to a tribe, to a group of people, to an idea that's important to us. And we express ourselves in decorated apparel in a way that we can always act like, oh yeah, we don't make sure to make sure it's pretty. I get it. And we like to make it less important because we don't want to stress ourselves out. But at the same time, these are heirlooms people find in their closets 50 years later.
Yep.
And we will be there living with them through these things that we make. But for us as a podcast, what I'd say, we trek forward. We strive to do this thing better for as long as you want to see or hear us. But this is the thing that I hope we do. And I think we've done to this point. We find the voices that need to be amplified. We find the questions that need answering, and we get that good info out there. That is what we are here to do, and it's what we're built for. Also, maybe work on some stuff to get the production value up, although I might be making myself some more work. That's why I love the news segment. News segment's great. That is the most button pushing and crazy stuff I have to do during the show, bar none. I have to that is not an automated feed, guys. All the little icons and, and banners and stuff. I'm manually moving those around, guys.
And I just sit here and watch, so I guess that's maybe why I like it so much.
Hey, the fact that you like it tells me that it's working. But as for the industry in general, the thing is, a lot of the things I was hoping for when I was a kid, when I was like literally a teenager starting in this industry, I had hoped for these things to happen. I wanted it to be more accessible, and it's happened. The democratization I wanted as a young embroiderer and digitizer, when people were mad at me for asking questions or sharing information once I learned something because I was letting the cat out of the bag, I was telling everybody the secrets. When I felt left out from the Club of Cool Kids, when I finally figured out there were other people doing what I was doing, it wasn't just arcade, it wasn't just magic. I felt left out. I felt like I couldn't be a part of that. And that democratization happened, and everybody is a part, and I see it continuing. More people making awesome gear that speaks to something important to them or to their customers can't be a bad thing for me. And I'm happy to see more and more people in it and producing their own gear. Small shops, large shops, everything is there. And we're all coming together and realizing that the boundaries we used to put between these things are pretty gray and fuzzy and don't mean as much because our unique industry has experiences that we're all sharing. And seeing that coincide, funny enough, with something that Aaron was talking about with like sustainability, more ethical ways to do our work, to source our goods and speak our minds is a wonderful thing. And I think we will continue to raise the bar and raise everyone up who wants to be a part of this. If you want to be a decorator, if you want to make something cool to put on or around someone to give them that tangible thing that connects them to their tribe, I want to help you. And I think that I can say that for all three of us.
Yep.
And last but not least, someone's going to figure out the real market for color reel and make me look really dumb on those early articles where I didn't get exactly where it'll go. I look forward to it. If you make my early articles look dumb and tell me, I'm not going to be mad at you and be like, awesome, salient point. Like I missed that back in the day. Or you figured it out, man. You have the market that makes it work. Because I've had so many discussions about new technologies coming up, and just like Terry, we're like, this is going to eliminate all thread colors forever. Probably not, but someone could come up with that killer use for it. And if you figure it out before I do, I welcome it. That's the thing. I think all of us feel that way. We're not sad that someday we'll be replaced. We're hoping that we are the stepping stones and the rungs on the ladder that get you further than we got. That's the point.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well, let's take a couple more comments because we are well into bonus time, and that's okay. All good. The half will just be when we start it. Okay. So
it'll jump right in. It'll be good.
Ramona says, when we're asked about what people are looking for, and definitely keep bringing these comments or reach out to us directly. Trend forecasting. I'm terrible at figuring out what will come, but I have you all to help me. That's awesome. Thanks, Ramona.
We just talk to people smarter than us.
Yeah,
that's the way to get that done.
That's why we keep bringing a guest. Christine says, just thinking about the two regular guys phrases I use regularly: junior yellow legal pad, bonus time, a rising tide lifts all boats. You've become part of the lexicon. That's pretty
I love
cool.
it.
And then Chuck says somebody has to maintain the AI.
That's right. A new job to look forward to, folks.
Yeah. And then Sheila says, I think that is one of the most important things you all bring to the arena: the spirit of cooperation, best practices, and encouragement to newbies and experienced decorators is priceless. Grateful for y'all and your voices. And I love that Sheila, being from Texas, got that y'all in there. So appreciate that.
Over to Mexico, and I'll slip a y'all once in a while.
That's right. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Sheila. Sheila's been a part of this show, and she shares her voice and has some amazing information to share as well. I know, I believe she's teaching at the Applique Getaway coming up. Right. Speaking of Applique Getaway, and Christine. And Christine, you mentioned about the confetti cannon. Just do it. It's fun. Just do it once.
It's not that bad.
You guys will like it. I can send you one. If you need me to send you one, Christine, I will send you one. I have a whole box. Terry and Eric won't let me send one to them. So
I have one. You already did. I just haven't been. I'm trying to get everybody else to do it first, so I can just point at them when I get in trouble. So,
all right.
They told me it was fine. So here's the thing I'm going to say. I'm so glad that everybody here, there's so many people who have been part of our show and teach and who are part of this. The one thing I'd love to tell all of you, if I have one last thing to put, and I know I'm stepping in, but where you are right now, you have a valuable perspective that someone needs. either people who haven't been in the industry as long as you have, and they haven't gone through the stuff you've gone through, or people who have been in the industry for a while and they're not new and they're not coming in at this time. Your perspective is valuable and you've got something to share and teach. So if you think you couldn't do what we're doing, we're just three regular guys up here. Like that's the real deal.
That's exactly right.
You have something your voice is important and we want to hear it.
Yeah. All right, Terry. Well, close us out with where Big Book of Travels is taking you.
Absolutely. My complete screen print and business course, I'm going to be at Workhorse Products in Phoenix, June 3rd and 4th. I'll be at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, June 10th and 11th. And yes, the next day I'll be with Equipment Zone and Jay Bassell at Apparel Decoration Summit in Nashville, June 12th and 14th. Yet to be determined, but outside of being a panel moderator, but I'll also be at the Impressions Expo Fort Worth, September 14th through 16th, and all my upcoming events are at terrycombs.com.
Awesome. Eric, what about you?
Today's take-up is on episode 153, Design Deconstruction, the Garden Gorilla Patches. I'm going to revisit one of my first personally designed patch sets. It's called the Garden Gorilla Trio, and I'm just going to discuss art creation, style inspiration, smaller unpatch process. And I just wanted to make this a fun kind of breakdown where we talk about designs. I've had people really love me just telling the story of designs and how they get done. So you get into the digitizer's mindset. And like I said, on this day before a holiday weekend, sometimes people aren't there. I'm here doing it for myself, so I'll enjoy it. So if you show up with me, I'd love to hear your process too. And we can just talk about digitizing and designing something yourself. So head over to ericcampbell.com, click the take up tab at the top for links. And like I said, live 2:30 Mountain Time. And I know Terry's drinking, so he doesn't have the time to say anything about Phoenix, like Arizona, what they do. But yes, no, we're at Mountain Daylight Time. I'll say it for him. And we'll be there. So I'd love to have you share your insights and join in. Also, I'm going to be at Impressions Fort Worth. I'm going to be presenting embroidery's value propositions, actually the full presentation I'm doing on Thursday. However, there might be more in the works. Like Terry said, there's some fluidity there where I might be teaching some other stuff. Follow up here for news as it happens. So stay with the two regular guys to hear it first.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Cool. All right. Well, ericcampbell.com is where you check that out. And all right, I'm done pushing buttons again, Eric. So for me, and just real quick on the take up today, this is one of the short shows then?
Yes, of course. Definitely going to be a shorter show, very informal. Will not go an hour and a half. Definitely going to be just a short show. It's going to be great.
Okay. So hour and 40 minutes today, everybody. But for me, I'm really excited about Start Here Academy coming up June 14th. If you'll head over to osg.link/SHA for Start Here Academy. I was actually working on my presentation and like I said, I had some cool ideas. So Reg and I will be reaching out to see what it's going to take for me to be able to set off a confetti cannon there. I don't know how that's going to go, but no. I
picture World Series locker room where everything's covered in plastic.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we get some champagne too. I like this idea. Now it's really coming together. Yeah, check that out. If you can get up there to Indy, it's the day before the show. It's completely free, and there's going to be tons of great information. There's two other presenters. We've got tons of great vendors that are sponsoring all this to make it free for you guys. And so they'll be there on site to talk and learn from them. And it's going to be an incredible night. We did this in Charlotte last year. And it definitely was a standout moment for me. It was just seeing that kind of, again, even if you're a decorator that's been around for a while, you've got to come to this thing because that startup mentality, you learn something from people getting started because they don't know what they don't know. And so they keep moving forward, right? Where sometimes the biggest thing that gets in our way is the things that we know, the truths, right? Well, maybe it's time to try something different. And this is a way to spark that. Plus just great information across the board and great networking, great opportunity to hang out. So check that out. Skills USA, I mentioned already, always looking for people to support that. If you would like, just reach out to me, but you can go check out what Skills USA is at skillsusa.org. That'll be the next week after the week of June 20th there. And then we will all three. So it looks like we're all three going to be out in Impressions Expo in Fort Worth. Yeah, a little dangerous, but I'm super excited about this. This came together September 13th, which is my birthday, actually. So this is in a way, a birthday present for me. I get to do a half-day class with a couple of groups of people that I really love. The gentleman at Corel Trainer and the gentleman from Magic Touch. The three of us are going to be putting on a half-day class, kind of an A to Z type class, from design to print to running your business. And more details are coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But if you're interested in that, just reach out to me. And you can go to impressionsexpo.com. I'm not sure if it's up or not. That, like Eric said, all very fluid right now, but stay tuned. And if you want to be, just reach out to me if you want to be notified when more of those details come out. So that's what I've got going on. So guys, I think we've done it. It's only been an hour and 35 minutes. So
about one average take up.
One average take up. Yeah. So that's what Eric's doing. He's trying to catch up to us, Terry. It doesn't count. It's still one show, Eric. No, but you guys are amazing. Congratulations, regulators. Congratulations, Terry. Thank you so much, Eric. Congratulations. Let's do another 500, guys. What do you say?
Let's do it. We also want to thank Eric for being our show producer and all that you do, and thank you, Aaron, for 500 episodes. Man, it's been a great ride. And for all of our U.S. listeners, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and a special salute to all of our veterans.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you all. All right. Well, guys, next week, 501, right? We're back at it. We've got Zach Ahorn is going to be talking about being self-made in the screen printing community and print plugs. So looking forward to talking to Zach. I know you've met him, Terry, in person.
Zach's a very interesting guy, so tune in.
Cool. I'm looking forward. I've not met Zach yet, so I'm super excited about next week, guys. So we'll see you back here, regular time.
All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery. He's Eric Campbell.
And for the 500th time, we are the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.